Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for the final session of VPA's three-part Census Bureau Media Webinar Series. Today's session is titled Census Bureau American Community Survey Data and is designed to help journalists write articles that are rich with data and to give you some ideas about some possible story ideas. Just a few housekeeping notes. During today's webinar, everyone is muted. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A section on your screen, and the presenters will get to them at the end. Now I'd like to turn this over to Susan Licata and Tim Sarko of the Census Bureau.
Thank you, Dina. Good morning and welcome to the Census Bureau presentation, Census Bureau Data and Resources, the American Community Survey. Next slide. And many thanks to all of you for joining us today. Now, if you've joined our last two, I want to welcome you back. And if this is your first census presentation, welcome, welcome. We look forward to your continued partnership. And we appreciate your time, and it certainly is a pleasure to be with you on behalf of the United States Census Bureau. My name is Susan Licata. I am the Media and Partnership Specialist, and today I'm joined by my colleague, Tim Sarko, Data Dissemination Specialist, and we are your contacts here at the U.S. Census Bureau. Now, from the bird's eye view, the Census Bureau has 6 regions across the United States, and our regional office is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the region includes those states that you see on the slide: Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Now, the United States Census Bureau, which is officially the Bureau of the Census, is the principal agency of the U.S. federal statistical system, and we're responsible for producing data about the American people and the economy. The Census Bureau is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, and our director is appointed by the President of the United States. Now, it's important to point out that the Census Bureau collects the data, we process the data, and we produce and publish the data, but we do not opine about the data, nor does the Census Bureau direct any federal allocations based on the data. Federal funding allocations are at the direction of state and local governments. And as you know, the dollars don't follow the need, the dollars follow the count. And Tim and I work directly with our local governments, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and of course our media together to coordinate and provide you with that hyper-local data or statistical information that really helps you make those informed, data-driven decisions. Next slide, please. So during this session, we will introduce you to the American Community Survey, and we'll also show you how to submit your request for an interview with Census Bureau subject matter experts, or perhaps a data dissemination specialist such as Tim or any of the others within the Census Bureau. We'll also show you how to cite the Census Bureau in your stories, as well as how to stay connected with the Census Bureau after today, as well as additional tools, resources, and one-on-one training opportunities that are available free, whether that is delivered live, in person, or on demand. Next slide, please. So just a top line overview about the Census Bureau before we get started. Know that we conduct more than 130 censuses and surveys each year. And community partnership and engagement is really what helps us to create data that helps local governments, business leaders, and organizations make those informed decisions. Now, we just came out of our Decennial Census, which many of you are very, very familiar with, and that's the once a decade population and housing count, which includes all 50 states and our US territories. We also have the American Community Survey, which is the second largest survey conducted by the Census Bureau. It is a 5-year and randomized annual survey of the social, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics of the nation's population. And that's what Tim's going to detail today. We also have our economic censuses, which is the 5-year measure of American businesses, as well as a variety of demographic surveys, which measure income, poverty, education, health insurance coverage, housing quality, crime victimization, and many other subjects. Our economic surveys, again, are conducted monthly, quarterly, and annually, and they cover those selected sectors of the nation's economy and supplement the economic census with more frequent information about our economy. Now, those surveys yield more than 400 annual economic reports, including principal economic indicators. Our sponsored surveys are demographic and economic surveys, and we conduct those for other government agencies. And those include the Current Population Survey, the National Health Interview Survey, and the National Survey of College Graduates. And then we have our Small Business Pulse surveys, which provides detailed information on the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on small businesses. And that is information that can be very, very useful as you look to include that local information for your articles. Next slide, please. And so I know once you finish listening to Tim, you'll want to pull some data, and we asked that you know how to cite the Census Bureau data, and here it is. It's always important that your reader or audience knows how to verify the data you've provided. We just ask that you make sure the website name of the data tool, so whether that's the American Community Survey or perhaps Census Quick Facts or data.census.gov, what that source was, the document or the table. You can include the URL as well as the date that you access that information in your citation. And there's an example shown on your screen as well. The slide deck will be shared with you. Dina will, following this presentation, share this with all of the members. Next slide, please. And of course, we welcome your requests for interviews. When requesting an interview, we do ask the following. We'll ask, of course, your name and the media outlet, your contact information. We'll ask about your deadline because we really do understand and recognize the need for prioritizing. If you have a 6 p.m. deadline, we will work to make sure that we can help meet that deadline. We'll also need to know if the piece is live, recorded, or part of a story that includes other contributors, whether that's in the community or if you're seeking other contributors across any other federal agencies. And then we'll also ask you for that general line of questions or the topic. And this is to ensure that we have the most up-to-date information and data ready for you. So for most requests, we'll provide the responses in writing. For radio, TV, podcast, broadcast, we'll work with you to ensure that line of questioning brings your audience the information that they need and want to know, as well as keeping the interview flowing. We also want to ensure that we have the appropriate Census Bureau representative that is ready to respond. And what that means is if we need a subject matter expert or perhaps our regional director, or if we have to coordinate with another agency or a member of our data team, we want to ensure that we have the right person ready for you. And do know that we have stock photos and B-roll that correspond to the 2020 census that you can use with your decennial stories. And you can find all of those at the link that is listed on the slide as well. Next slide, please. So it is my pleasure now to turn the floor over to my colleague, Tim Sarko, Data Dissemination Specialist, who will talk to you about the American Community Survey. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susan. Just a second. Our objectives for today are to build your story using census data and to distinguish between different levels of census geography, and to describe the differences between different types of demographic and economic data, and then locate census data via census.gov. So our outline is, behind the scenes, we want to use data to tell your story and understand how census geography works. and then different census data products, demographic and economic. And then I'm gonna do a live demo show you some of how to access some of the ACE, the American Community Survey data. Here I got the story. This is the top 10 states and percentage of adults in households who expect someone in their household to have a loss in employment income in the next 4 weeks due to COVID-19. So on the left-hand side, you see just the numbers. But on the right-hand side, I actually made the graphics to tell a story so you can more clearly see what is going on. Like you could see Louisiana was the state that was most affected in loss of employment income due to COVID-19, all the way down to the District of Columbia. And you can see the United States, the darker green areas are where there's more loss of employment income due to COVID-19. So the point there is you want to show in graphic visualization. And also here on the left side, we do have at census.gov, understanding and using American Community Survey data. It's what journalists need to know. Actually, so you can go to census.gov and access that booklet. So one of the first things you need to know when you deal with American Community Survey data, and basically any census data is geography. And then you need to know your data source, time frame, and which is the appropriate data tool to use to extract that data. So first things first is geography. This is our geography hierarchy. And you can see it goes from the nation all the way down to the census block. And if you think of a block in your neighborhood, that's indicative of a census block. American Community Survey data is available at the block group level and up. At the census block level, it's just right now 2020 census basic demographic data. So you could very easily get any kind of American Community Survey data, say for all zip codes in the United States or all census tracts in your county. And this just shows you how the geography fits together. We have a block, which is the very basic. They're not defined by population. So a block fits into a block group. And as you can see here, there's 4 block groups within, or there's 4 blocks within this block group 3. Then the block group fits into a census tract. And you can see block group 3 fits into the census tract. And it looks like it has 3 block groups within it. And the census tracts do have an optimum of 4,000 people. And I'm going to switch for a second. Hopefully you can still see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. Let's try to get rid of this. Okay. The demographic data sources, we have the Decennial Census. It's constitutionally mandated. As everybody knows, we do it every 10 years. It's used for apportioning seats in the US House of Representatives. And the questions vary from census to census. And the data are from our very first census in 1790. We have the program, the Population Estimates Program, which they're conducted in non-decennial years. It's an annual time series. It calculates population change, and it gives you data on births, deaths, and migration. And that's from 1900 to current. And of course, we have the American Community Survey that's conducted every year. It's period estimates from 2007. It actually, well, data are released every year. And it's released in, it's important to know, it's released in 1 year and 5 year estimates. And the user, it's used for needs assessment, research, education, and advocacy work. And you can get data from 2005 to the present. And as Susan said, we have the business pulses, we have the household pulse survey also. That's experimental. It shows how people's lives were impacted by the COVID ID. The data are disseminated in real time. It aids in federal and state recovery and planning. And it has questions on childcare, unemployment, food security, health, vaccinations, how COVID ID has affected all those. And then we have the Consumer Expenditure Survey. That's a national survey. It's sponsored jointly it's sponsored with BLS. It collects data on the Consumer Price Index. And actually excuse me, it's 2 separate surveys, the quarterly interview survey and the diary survey. And it's data since 1980. We have the Current Population Survey. That's a national survey. It's sponsored jointly with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the primary source of labor statistics. It samples about 60,000 households a month. It gives you data on the employed, the unemployed, and other labor force characteristics. It's been done since 1940 to the present. As I said, the decennial census, it varies from census to census. Up until 2000, we were sending the long form along with the short form to basically like 1 in 6 households. So there was a lot more questions on the 2000 census, but since then, 2010, 2020, you just get your basic age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, and tenure. The population estimates program that I talked about, it uses the population base, which they get from the decennial census. They add births and they subtract deaths, which they get from birth and death certificates. And then they add migration, which they get from IRS and Medicare, to come up with a population estimate. And you can get these estimates in the national, the state, and county. You can get them by age, by sex, by race, and Hispanic origin. If you want city or town or other sub-county areas, those will just be total population. You can also get national, state, and county housing unit totals as well. And on the bottom there, you see I have Virginia's population estimates from 2010 to 2019. We also have the American Community Survey. It's the nation's most current, reliable, and accessible data source for local statistics on critical planning topics such as age, children, veterans, commuting, education, income, and employment. It surveys over 3.5 million addresses, and it allocates over $675 billion of federal government spending each year. It covers over 40 topics, supports over 300 evidence-based federal government uses, and it produces 11 billion estimates each year. And it's important to know, like I said before, it's released in 1 year estimates and 5 year estimates. 1 year estimates are for populations of 65,000 or more, and 5 year estimates are for geographies, all geographies. Here are the topics for the data topics for the ACS. So if you look on the social side, if you wanted to know, for instance, what languages do people speak at home in your county, in your city? What is the educational attainment? And if you look at demographic, we have age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, and group quarters. And then we have any number of economic topics as well. If you wanted to know What industries and occupations do people work in your county, your city? How do people get to work and how long does it take them to get to work? And then we have housing topics as well. How old are the homes? Who owns or rents their homes? And then if you look on the bottom, you can get the 2020 census. You get basic demographic data such as age, race, sex, Hispanic or Latino origin. And then we have household relationship, tenure, vacancy, characteristics, and group quarters. As I alluded to earlier, when you use the ACS, it comes out twice a year as 1-year estimates and as 5-year estimates. The 1-year estimates are for 12 months of collected data, whereas the 5-year are 60 months of collected data. The 1 year are for populations of 65,000 or more, and the 5-year are for all geographic areas down to the block group level. So for instance, if you have a population of, like, let's say Virginia, it would be your choice to use the 1 year or the 5-year in that case. But so your geography is going to dictate basically which estimate you use. Sometimes when you use, like if you're using tracts, block groups, tracts, or even smaller counties, you have to use the 5-year. The 1 year are smaller sample size, so it's less reliable. The 5-year are larger sample size, so they're more reliable. There's more data going into the 5-year estimate. The 1 year are more current, and the 5-year are less current. So the 1 year is best used when current data are more important or you're analyzing large populations. The 5-year are best used when precise data are more important or you're analyzing small populations. So how to use ACS estimates in your stories? You want to use ACS for population characteristics like percents, means, medians, or rates. You don't want to use ACS for population totals. So I showed you you would use the population estimates programs instead for population totals. You do want to compare non-overlapping data sets. So for instance, you want to compare, if you're comparing 5 years, 2 sets of 5-year ACS 5 years, you don't want them to have years in common. So make sure they're non-overlapping. You do want to compare similar period lengths. So you want to compare 1 year to 1 year, 5 year to 5 year. You don't want to compare 1 year to 5 years. You do want to conduct statistical testing when making comparison between estimates. And you don't want to look at the estimates alone to decide if they are higher or lower than one another. So here, basically the last thing I just said, all the ACS estimates, this is the margin, they come with a margin, since it's a sample survey, they come with associated margins of error. And you can see this is population data for Virginia, and you can see the margin of error associated with the population data. So if you were comparing, let's say over time, you want to make sure you could do a test of statistical significance to make sure that those two data points are statistically different from year to year. Now, just a little bit about data tools to use to extract the ACS data. We have data.census.gov, and that's our main data tool. I'm not going to go in detail to that because we had that in past sessions. I wanted to focus more on quick facts in the American Community Survey website. So just to show you quick facts, I'm going to do a brief demo of it. Hopefully that works. Let's see. Here we go. So quick facts, they're very simple to use. And as you can see, the data is broken down into several different categories. If you look, you see on the top, there's the population estimates that I talked about. And this, it defaults to the United States. And then you've got age and sex, race and Hispanic origin, population characteristics, housing, and you got family and living arrangements, computer and internet use, education, health, economy, transportation, income and poverty, businesses, and then geography. These data that you see here are coming from ACS, are coming from our economic census, or economic surveys, and population estimates. Excuse me. So they're coming from a variety of different sources. To use quick facts, you simply type in a state, a county, a city, a zip code. So let's say I'm interested in, let's say Virginia, the state of Virginia. And then it populates a table with Virginia. I'll take the United States off. And let's say I wanted to compare that for whatever reason with, we'll say Fairfax County, Virginia. So then you can quickly see how your area compares to, in this case, the state of Virginia in these data items. So you could see if you wanted to know, for instance, let's say median household income, for example, you can see that Fairfax is a way higher median household income than does the state of Virginia at 124,000. And if you want to look at, for instance, bachelor's degree or higher, you could see that Fairfax has a much higher than Virginia at 61.6% with a bachelor's degree or higher, as opposed to 38.8. And one thing you could do with quick facts is you can make a map. So by simply clicking on any data item, if I wanted to look at, let's say I wanted to look at, we'll look at income, median household income. You just click on that data item and then go up to map, and I'll choose Fairfax County. And it takes a second. Come on. There. And what it'll do, it'll paint the map by county according to median household income. So you can see that it's taken a while to load, but you can see, and you can click on any of these counties and see the median household income. The darker blues where they're heavier median household incomes. So you can see Fauquier County is 100,783. So that shows that you can map any data item in quick facts. And if you click on chart, you can easily chart any of the data items as well. In this case, I'm still on median household income, so I can see median household income in a chart by county in Virginia. And you can also, you can print this out, you could download it as a CSV, and you can embed it as well. So that's quick facts. It's very simple to use. There's one other, another one I wanted to show you real quick is how to access the ACS data. Here I'm on census.gov. I'm going to go to surveys and programs, and I'm going to go to the ACS website. On the American Community Survey website, you can click on data on the left here. And then you can go on data tables. And then when you go to data tables, you'll see you have data profiles, narrative profiles, subject tables, ranking tables. The data profiles give you the big picture. Excuse me. There's basically 4 data profiles, in which I'll show you one real quick. So when you go on data profiles, you can get a data profile all the way down to the census tract level. For example, I'll show you, I'll do place, and then it tells you to select a state. I'll select Virginia, and then I'll select a place in Virginia. I'll just pick one. Let's see, I don't want a CDP. I don't know where Belhaven Town is, but, and then I'll get profile link. So here are the data profiles. As you can see, there's social characteristics, economic characteristics, housing characteristics, and demographic characteristics. So basically anything I want to see, for example, economic wise, would be in the economic characteristics data profile. So I'll open that up. Uh-oh. It's having, it loads slow. So here is the economic data, selected economic data, the data profile. As I said, anything you want to see economic-wise would be in this data profile. Scroll down. So you can see there's occupation, industry, class of workers, income, family income. It goes all the way down to poverty. In this case, it compares Virginia with the state of Virginia with Belhaven Town, Virginia, which I selected. So that's how to quickly get into the data profiles instead of going into data.census.gov, our main data tool. Let's see. So another thing you could do is when you go here, you can go to narrative profiles. The narrative profiles, they tell a story with data. In media, journalists, especially like the narrative profiles, because they tell a story with data, as I said, but they include many different charts and graphs. And you could easily take out those charts and graphs, any of those charts and graphs for your own use. And the narrative profiles are not in our main data tool. They only reside here on the American Community Survey website. And you can get them from the nation down to the census tract. So again, I'm going to do place, and I'm going to do Virginia. And then I'll choose a different place. Let's do. I'll do about Falls Church. And I'll get narrative profile. So basically what you're getting here is the narrative profile, but it's broken down by different categories, similar to what you saw in those data profiles. So it combines all those data profiles, those categories, and it puts it into a narrative form. So you can see it starts off with households and families, and it tells you about the households and families in Falls Church. And then it gives you an actual graph here of the households and families. And it goes on marital status, nativity and foreign born. It's very big, and it goes through every data topic. Language spoken at home, geographic mobility. And you can, as I said, you could easily take out these charts and graphs, and you can also view them in a table format if you wanted to, simply by clicking on the view data in table format. Here's educational attainment, employment status, goes through all the industries, what industries people work in, what occupations people have, how they get to work, then income, down to population or poverty, health insurance. And then it gives you a population graph. Then it goes through all the housing data as well. So narrative profiles, the point there is you can access them on the American Community Survey website, and that's where they're only available, not in data.census.gov. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Now, I just wanted to make you aware of another data tool. It's called Census Reporter. And what it is, it's a data product that was made specifically for reporters, journalists. And it's very simple to use. I have the website up here, censusreporter.org. But basically, you just type in a geography, and it'll pull up all the demographic, the charts, it starts off with age and then sex, it goes into median household income and all the ACS data in nice charts and graphs that you could easily use for your own stories. Let me see. I wasn't gonna. I'm just quickly show you the page. So here is Virginia. As you can see, it goes through the median age, income, and you can hover over any of these and it'll tell you the actual values. And you can also show the data, and you can embed this as well, any of these graphics. Like I said, it's not a census product, but it was made specifically for journalists. Oops. Okay. Susan, do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Tim. That's very informative. And I always learn something new every time I attend one of these. There's so much data available, and especially for the media. So we're happy to open it up for Q&A at this point. I do want to remind that any questions related to data quality or methodology or any pending litigation should be directed to our Public Information Office at pio@census.gov. Again, that's pio@census.gov. And let me check the chat here real quick and see if there's anything. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. And Dina, have any questions come into you?
I have no questions. Nothing in the chat or the Q&A this morning.
Okay, great. Well, let me remind that in addition to what you've learned today about the American Community Survey, as well as the prior two webinars, we have a variety of additional data training and resources available to all of you. And again, at no cost. And the beauty is there is nothing to download, and you don't have to put an extension onto your computer, and they're accessible from pretty much any device. Whether it's our Census Academy, which is that virtual hub for learning data skills, our data gems, which are really neat. They're short how-to videos that are available for data users. And those range from the novice user through the advanced and experienced user. So it's a quick and easy way for you to enhance your knowledge of census data. We have a variety of courses, webinars, much like you've seen here today. You can sign up to be notified for those live webinars. We have them quite often from several of our various departments across the Census bureaus. And if you can't catch them, of course, they are living live at census.gov in a recorded fashion. The demographic data map viewer, the link is right there. Our Census Bureau, everything starts with census.gov. Also, during the 2020 Decennial Census, I know many of you followed the self-response rate viewer map. That is still at census.gov, and the link is there. So you can go ahead and check that self-response rate, whether that's at the county level or the tract level. You can look at the state, the national view. And again, reminding that self-response includes those households that responded online, by phone, or returning their paper form in the mail. It is only self-response. Our Census Quick Facts, as Tim mentioned, the link is there, census.gov/quick facts, data.census.gov, again, chock full of information and data available for you to help really deepen and strengthen your stories. The American Community Survey, as Tim explained this morning, the link is right there at census.gov/programs-surveys/ACS, and the ACS information guide, which really helps you to understand the depth and detail within the American Community Survey. Next slide, please. And we'll go one more. And again, we invite you to stay connected with us. We have a variety of social media channels, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, where all of our videos reside, as well as Instagram. We invite you to stay current with our newsroom. And again, if you were unable to join us for our first session, which was the tour of the Census Bureau newsroom, please do feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to give you that tour of the Census newsroom, whether that's one-on-one or to your news staff. We also have our America Count stories, a variety of blogs, as well as stats for stories and facts for features, which is not listed there, but you will find that in our newsroom. Data training sessions. So if you would like to book a training session, such as what you attended today with Tim or any of our other data specialists, feel free to reach out to us at census.askdata@census.gov, or simply by calling toll free at 844-ASKDATA. And finally, we invite you to stay updated. You can sign up to receive those updates from the Census Bureau. Those are available to you. You can subscribe and become aware not only of the data releases, but about any upcoming press conferences that may be taking place and hosted by our Census Bureau headquarters. Next slide, please. And our contact information, me on the left, Susan Licata, and Tim Sarko on the right. And again, we are here for you. Please don't hesitate to reach out, whether that is by phone, text, or email. We are happy to help. And again, thank you so much, Dina, for helping to coordinate this series. We do appreciate that. And on behalf of Tim and I and Joe Cortullo, who hosted our first 2 sessions, and the U.S. Census Bureau, we thank you for your time today. And Dina, again, thank you for your partnership and the coordination to bring this data series to the membership. We look forward to our continued partnership, and thank you again. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Well, thank you, Susan and Tim. We really appreciate you doing this for us today. I hope attendees were able to learn something new. I know that it's going to take me a while to just dig around in there and see what kind of information we can find, but it's very helpful. I wanted to let everyone know that once the video is rendered, I'll send you the link to today's video along with the slides. So if you want to watch it again later or share it with some coworkers, feel free to do that. And one more final thing, if you're interested, next Thursday, December 9th at 10 a.m., we're going to be hosting a webinar featuring Dr. Bob Holsworth, who's one of the leading political analysts in Virginia. He will share his insight on the 2021 election with Virginia Press Association members during a Zoom discussion. It's entitled After the Election, What Happens Next? The information went out in this morning's ePress newsletter. If you don't get the ePress newsletter, please visit www.bpa.net. There's a little pop-up box, and you can sign up for our newsletters there. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation and hope you have a good week. Thank you so much, everyone.